This episode of Talkin' 'Bout Rock is sponsored by Unleashed Music. Drawing on years of experience, contacts, and partnerships, Unleashed Music is uniquely positioned to platform, develop, and realize the vision of artists of all genres. Achieve your goals by partnering with Unleashed Music and take advantage of their decades of experience to help you create and execute your marketing campaign. Visit unleashedmusic.com for more info.
On this episode, Mike Mostert, from In Theory.
Okay, today's guest hails from Muscle Shoals, Alabama. He's worn a lot of hats in his career: producer, writer, guitarist. He was originally signed to EMI in the 90s and toured the world. Joining us now, let's welcome Mike Mostert from In Theory. Mike, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. How about yourself? How you doing, Ron?
Not too bad, not too bad. So yeah, like we're saying, man, you've worn a lot of different hats here. You're also CEO and founder of Go-Go Tuners and Senior VP of Sawtooth Chromecast, man. So much stuff going on to you. And then I was reading this kind of finally led you back to In Theory, right?
Yeah, it was really the Go-Go world that got me back into here. So that was a long full circle journey, right? So a long time ago, as you said, I was signed to EMI. We did the world tours and all that wonderful stuff. But, it was a different era in the music business at that time. So, you would have your 3 or 4 year shelf space. So, punk was popular, it was 3 or 4 years, and then disco and then hair metal. And unfortunately, we got signed right on the very last year of hair metal when Nirvana just came out, and that was it. It really decimated all the hair metal bands, essentially.
Yeah, just took care of that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even the biggest bands, think about it, 6 months earlier, they were selling millions to everybody just getting dropped. And so at that time, it's a strong word, but, I sort of turned away from music. I was just focusing on my companies. And one of the companies is Go-Go Tuners. And I think now we're since 2010 now. And because of the tuner company, it put me in contact with so many different artists. So I had like some of the biggest guys in, you name it, from Ice-T to Stanley Clarke to like the list just goes on and on, who's on my roster. So I was involved with a lot of artists as also not only the CEO and founder, but also artist relations. And I would do, podcasts, I would do TV shows, but I always called I was in disguise. I was the guy, I was the CEO. I'd bring an artist with me. Nobody knew I played guitar. And so one day I went up to New York and I saw a friend play. And I always call it, he knew Mike 1.0, the hair metal guy. And I always make the joke, I said, I'm not sure if it was Jack Daniels, if it was 3 a.m, or we never really had a deep conversation. But he goes, are you still playing guitar? And I said, well, I gave him the bullshit answer. Yeah, I'm still playing. And he goes, Mike, you have to remember, this is why you got into the business. It's part of who you are. It's part of your soul. You really got to do this. And, I thought about it. It hit me really hard. But then I started thinking more in a pragmatic perspective, meaning, it'd be really good for the artist to know that I designed it for a musician, by a musician for a musician. I'm just not an entrepreneur. I'm not a bean counter. Like, I know what the problems it is playing, on the stage during the sunlight or, this what I thought could make a better mousetrap. So what happens, I knew my next interview out was going to be, I think, 3 or 4 months later. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to come out as a guitar player. But it was also important for me, if I'm going to come out as a guitar player, to be seen, as a guitar player. I didn't want to be like, oh, it's cute, you're letting the CEO play. Like, that would kill me.
Right. You got to show them you got the chops. You've been around the block a little bit. You know what's going on when you're designing this stuff. Yeah.
So it was 4 months, and So what I did is from midnight to about 3 or 4 in the morning for 4 months straight, I just woodshedded. No one knew. I just practiced. And I always called my first coming out was on Fox TV to 20 million people. So I played guitar for the first time in front of people. And they're like, oh, okay. It was, coming out of the closet as a guitar player. And then the next thing that happened was I would do interviews with my artists, but it was always ending up playing one song with them. And my logic with that was no different than the other thing. If I play one song for 30 days, I could be really good at that one song. So that was sort of like the next phase. And I would just do it. I'd play guitar. And then from there, I started getting invited by, some of my, high profile, famous friends, and just play with them at a theater or arenas. And here I am just playing. And then I put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, well, why don't I put on my own events and I'll be the house guitar player? So I would bring them to my events and I'd be the house guitar player. And then I took it one step further, which was never done in the music retail business. Now it's been done a couple times. I decided to make an artist roster record. So I brought in some of my friends and artists. And originally I was going to take a little role in it, but I ended up taking a large role where I ended up producing it, co-writing it, and that's where I brought In Theory back in because Tony Covino and I we were signed to EMI, so it's like boom, let's bring that back in. This was an incarnation of In Theory on that, but because that record got so much traction, we decided let's keep going with In Theory, and it's just been 7 years later with In Theory, and we've had a lot of success with it. We've had 2 top singles, and and obviously we've been touring a lot. I mean, the last 2-3 years, it's been almost like nonstop touring on top of the everything else that we're doing. So that's brings us to where we are now. How's that for a quick Reader's Digest?
That's a great rehash of kind of getting everybody up to speed if they're not familiar with it. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And so I was reading, you guys are kind of describing your sound. I think you said it's a modern Zepp with a swampy Soundgarden mixed in there, right?
Yeah, because there's that bluesy element. There's a lot of songs that I'm doing like what you call like an open G tuning, and then Tony Covino has like a Cornell vibe to him. So that's how we've been. We were getting described as that. I think I'm just repeating what we were being described at the time. I think now as time's going on, there's a little bit less of that, but early on you can definitely hear more of that, especially from I call it more the guitar tunings, But I'm also say like a Jimmy Page, I like to experiment with different tunings. Like there's some songs where I have 3 different tunings per song, but like the verse will be tuned to E, next part open G, next thing's tuned to D. I'm trying to figure out how to do it live is a whole other ball game.
Right.
But I know it sounds right in the studio, So so that's where we are with that.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, you guys are definitely creating a very unique sound you have here for sure, and doing some very unique stuff, and just having an amazing rendition here of Led Zepp's "Since I've Been Loving You" with Eric Gales. Tell us kind of how that fell together. That sounds amazing.
Eric Gales, Eric is definitely he's the legend. He's one of my favorite guitar players, and a guy on my bucket list. And how Eric and I finally connected was through a bass player, Victor Wooten. I'm not sure if you know who Victor Wooten is. And but Eric and Victor and I, we're family friends and stuff. And Eric was playing his camp. This was middle of last year or so. And so I called up Victor. I said, Eric's playing your thing. I want to play with him. He's just one of my guys. I just want to play with him. Victor's like, yeah, no problem. Come on up. But on the flip side, the other thing is I'm also a caretaker for my parents. And my father's has dementia and he's blind. My mother's deaf. And so I'm there 2 weeks out of the month taking care of them as a caretaker. And my sister is doing the other 2 weeks. So, that's been a whole lot with that. But sure enough, it fell on the weeks I was taking care of my parents. So I couldn't make it up to Victor's camp to play with Eric. And then if you want to call it fate or destiny or however you want to call it, he happened to be playing right by my parents' house 3 weeks later. So I saw that. I messaged Eric. I said, "Look, Victor's been trying to connect us. Let's meet up." And then he said, "Sure, come down to my sound check. Let's see how we vibe. If we vibe, then we'll go further." And and I just showed, can we curse on your show? Or
yeah, this is the internet. You can say whatever the hell you want.
All right, so I'm holding back my fucking New York roots.
Go ahead.
So we were at sound check, and he was, fuck sound check. Let's just do something at my place. I got a studio up in North Carolina. So I'm like, okay, and this was October, like I said. So, but he goes, let's wait till the tour's done. So there's part of me is like, was he being polite, or,
was he putting you off, or what? Yeah.
Right, and you never know how things go in the schedules and stuff.
Right.
So I told him up first week in December. He's like, well, what do you want to do? I go, well, what do you want to do? You mentioned this too, like it was like that.
Right.
So I go, let's do a song. And he goes, all right. Can I be? He goes, I have I become a special guest on your song. And so that was first week of December. And then, so the Tuesday afterwards, I had to pick a song. And and since I've been loving you, there's a rendition that the band Europe does with the orchestra, and that's part of my practice and regimen. I have, there's like 30, 40 songs that every day I just play through the song. And so I thought about that song, but also for a pragmatic reason, meaning if you ever see different versions of Zeppelin doing it, the tempos are all, depending on their mood. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 10 minutes, sometimes they're just, the tempo's off by 30, BPMs, depending on the mood, and that's a different generation of musicians, right?
Right.
But I'm thinking, okay, well, with an orchestra, it has to be pretty regimented. If they had to score it to an orchestra. So I picked that song, and I bring in, at that time, I brought in a different rhythm section, and we start bringing it like to the grid, and sure enough, they're all over the place too. Like, oh man, and the singer had already sung to the version that Europe did, so nothing would match up. So we had to rebuild the whole thing, and then I really just gave the singer like an hour. So look, you got to get this done. Now you have to imagine this. It took him 2 days to do it the first time. He's a perfectionist. This time I go, you got to get done in an hour. And he was not the happiest camper. But his performance on it, I think, is a performance of a lifetime as a singer. And he just killed it. So after listening to the rhythm section and all that, I'm like, and especially experience, and I have to say, when you experience an Eric Gale's sound check, and I watched him, how tough he was on his band, and how great he is as a player, I'm like, good is not good enough. Like, it has to be great. Like, I couldn't walk in there and just being good. And so that night, or maybe it was at 9 o'clock that night, I called up Glenn Sobel, from the Vampires and Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
Told my situation. I said, look, I'm going to stay with Gales, and and God bless him. He's such a nice guy, and he was trying to find an engineer and a drum tech so he can get prepared to do the session. So by 11:30 that night, he goes, all right, I got my tech, I got my engineer, we can do it Thursday morning, whatever it was, 11:30 in the morning. Great. So he does his track, and then we need to get the bass. But sure enough, the bass player is Jumbo Hart. He's with Jason Isbell, and he got COVID.
Oh man!
So here I'm like, oh my god! And you have to understand that so this was on a Thursday. Friday, I had to fly out to go to Gale's studio in North Carolina. So I'm scrambling to get all this done. And so there's this app called Audio Movers, and with Audio Movers, you could be anywhere in the world, but you can play, or it's almost like you're in the same room. So when he was playing, it was going through my speakers in my studio, so I can hear it in real time, and we had the videos going as well. And the same thing with Glenn. So so he has his engineer, we got audio movers, and we got video. So you're really in there, at the same time. So I can stop the track. I'm like, no, this is right, this is wrong, or this is the direction we're going. So so then Jimbo did his track. Had to be saying like 9 o'clock that night. Next morning, I fly to Charlotte, drive 2 hours to Greensboro, and then Saturday, I think Eric and I spent at least 10 hours doing the tracks, and that's how that whole thing, in a matter of 3 or 4 days, put it all together in 4 cities.
Well, yeah, just a ton of effort behind it, and it definitely paid off because it's definitely a great track for sure. So we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll play the video on the track for that Led Zepp cover there. You've got Since I've Been Loving You. We'll be right back here on Talking About Rock.
Everybody tried to tell me 7 to 11 every night. I think it's a drag. Yeah, drag. I don't think the drag. Since I'm loving you, I'm about to lose my worried mind. No, about to lose it. Just one more. Yeah. I'm about to lose my worried mind.
Okay, we're back here on Talking About Rock. Just checked out the track for the Led Zepp cover there, Since I've Been Loving You from In Theory. Excellent sound and so very cool, man. And like you were saying, you are a busy guy and you've got a lot of dates coming up here too. I was taking a look at your site, man. You want to share with some of the folks here, or I can go through the dates that you got coming up?
Yeah, we have, I think this month we're doing the Texas Hippie Coalition out here. Should be pretty fun shows. They're pretty heavy band. So we get to show a different side of In Theory. And then we have some shows at Angel on the West Coast. And there's one show that's not on our thing yet, but I think we have shows, I think back in the Midwest or Pennsylvania, where we would consider, is that Northeast now? Or whatever,
Yeah,
Pittsburgh?
that would be like Northeast, yeah.
Northeast?
Yeah,
Right,
I guess,
so So I think we have some shows with the Babies, from what I understand, as well. So that's the next set of shows on top of the recording as well. Like I said, we're busy folks. So this Friday, we also have a new single coming out with Tommy Henriksen called Retribution. And it's sort of like if Mutt Lange and Aerosmith had a baby in 2025, that's what that song is. So that's coming out this Friday, and then we're putting out a full album on June 13th, because why not? Friday the 13th.
Right now.
And then like I said, just keep on adding sporadic tour dates that make sense for us, and we're ready back in the studio. We're ready. I call it the cousin of the Retribution I did with Tommy. So again, we put solo background drums on that. So that's the next song, and I think there may be a surprise after that that I may release. I've been holding off on the song, but I'm contemplating finally releasing it in July, which is not an In Theory song, but I can mention it. But it's the original I did with Rod Morgenstein and Victor Wooten, and I might as well put it out now because I just did the Gals. We got the Henriksen full album. Let's put that out. So
yeah, definitely just get it out there. So the new album's going to be called Retribution.
The album's called Retribution, right after the single we did with Tommy. And like I said, I think the hard rock fans will love it. Like I said, it's Aerosmith in 2025. That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, definitely. I love your sound here. You got, like I was saying, we're going through some of the dates here. You folks can check it out. In Theory, I think it's intheoryoriginal.com. Some of these dates, you got a couple dates here going on with Zebra. It looks like at the Basement East, June 14th. So that should be very cool. Also, you got some dates coming up with the Whiskey. It looks like I think June 7th. You got a date at the Whiskey coming up, but lots of shows there. Definitely check that out. And we look forward to your new single, man. Very cool stuff you guys got going on. Very cool.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your time, and we're able to get a whole lot in a little bit of time.
Oh, definitely.
You got the full story.
Got the whole deal. All right, folks. So this wraps up this episode of Talk About Rock. Thank you to my guest today, Mike Mostert from In Theory. So glad to be with you today, and thank you to our
As
sponsor.
Mike Mostert from In Theory, not from the Miami Dolphins.
Not from the Dolphins, right? And thank you to our sponsors, School of Rock North Buffalo and Unleashed Music. Mike, again, man, thanks so much.
Thank you.